Hey, what's up, everybody? My name is Bryson from Tuned In Sports, and today I'm going to be bringing you our first podcast type of deal. Even though it's not really a podcast, but it is just audio. No video will be in this particular video. If you do enjoy the visual and all that stuff, make sure you check out some of our other videos. But I wanted to give this a try, and I figured there's no better way to give this a try than to test it out on the upcoming Alabama game. So Alabama will be playing the Ole Miss Rebels this week, and the game is actually taking place at Ole Miss. So it should be an interesting matchup. As a matter of fact, it looks like here that Ole Miss is second in the SEC West. So according to ESPN at least, so that should be a interesting matchup. I do think that we should win this game, but I will say that Ole Miss with Kiffin there, there's just a different energy around the team. So I really think that they're gonna be, it's gonna be a tough one. And if you underestimate any team in the SEC, you're liable to lose. And I definitely think that is a possibility this week if we, just take the week off, so to speak. So, with that being said, though, we're going to be playing Ole Miss. I'll start with the Ole Miss side of things. Thus far they're 1-1. Like I said, second in the SEC West. And thus far they've actually played really well for the most part. They were involved in that shootout with Kentucky last week, came down to overtime, and the Kentucky player ended up missing a field goal, which allowed, when Ole Miss went down and scored the touchdown in overtime, then they made the extra point, and that allowed them to win because the Kentucky player missed the extra point. So, unfortunate for the Wildcats, but hey, Ole Miss, they took advantage of it, and they, at the end of the day, if they hadn't scored seven, then it wouldn't have mattered. But their offense was able to do it. And with that being said as well, they, even though they lost to Florida, they lost 51-35. And it was a relatively, from what I watched at least, it was a relatively competitive game. I mean, I don't think that there was ever really a point or too many points where I actually thought Ole Miss was going to win. But I will say that they were a game opponent. And, I will say this about Ole Miss too, is that I was pretty impressed by the fact that in the Florida game, they put up 35 points. Florida has usually got a really solid defense, so anybody putting up 35 points against them, that they're no slouch. And even though they lost that game, and then they won the Kentucky one, but in both those games they scored 35 and 42. So I definitely think that at least thus far the offense hasn't been the issue, but the defense has given up 51 and 41. With how many points they've scored, though, they could very well be 2-0. Most teams that put up that many points on a consistent basis would be 2-0. So it's unfortunate for them that, their defense hasn't been playing very well. But with that being said, I definitely think that if we're not careful and we don't, really watch out, we could easily be in a shootout with these guys. And I don't know if we necessarily want to do that. I think a lot of people, including just experts and stuff, are kind of counting Ole Miss out. And so, with that being said, if we're not careful, we could very easily find ourselves in a very tight game with these guys. And if that were to happen, I mean, you never know. We'll see what ends up happening. But I really think we need to play well on defense, and the offense needs to take advantage because apparently their defense is not that strong thus far. So we offensively need to play really well, and defensively we need to just keep them out of the end zone and do our part. But we'll see what ends up happening. It's pretty exciting game, and I'm really looking forward to it. The quarterback of Ole Miss is Matt Corral or Coral. I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce his name, but it looks like he's played pretty well this season. Only one interception, but 7 touchdowns. That's pretty damn good. And through 2 games, a completion percentage of 76%. So, that means basically that he's not just throwing it around and letting anything happen with it too often. Usually when he drops back to pass, it's being completed. So that's a good sign for them. For us, that means we really need to pick it up because it seems like this guy is a pretty accurate passer. With that being said as well, he's taken 6 sacks so far. So I really think that we need to take advantage of their offensive line being a little bit weak. Now, I mentioned before the games they played against were Kentucky and Florida, and I'm definitely not saying that Florida is an easy out for sure, because I know that Florida is a very difficult out, and as a matter of fact, they ended up winning the game. So obviously they did what they needed to do. The only thing that I will say is that due to the fact that they have 6 sacks through 2 games, I would think that their offensive line is something that we could take advantage of. And I really think that we could prey on that defensively, because Alabama, they constantly have Pro Bowl or NFL, All-American, whatever you want to call it, players coming out of there to the next level. So I think our defensive line really, really, really needs to step it up this week. And if we can rush the quarterback, make him feel uncomfortable, maybe force some mistakes, I think we're capable of doing it. And I think that's going to be necessary for us to want to pull out a win this week, because it's going to be, I really think no matter what happens, it's going to be a tight game. I really hope that we can pull it out and do what we need to do, but I have a feeling that Ole Miss is going to come to play, and if we're not careful, we could end up losing this game. So with that being said, let's go over to the Alabama side of things. Mac Jones, he's played really, really well so far. He's got 6 touchdowns and only 1 interception. And then on the other side of it, too, is he only has 1 sack. So the offensive line for us has been doing a good job at keeping him protected for the most part. He's only had to scramble 3 times. So with that being said, I really think that we could take advantage of our offensive line just seemingly being better than their defensive line. And if that's the case, I think it's going to be a long day for Ole Miss. So far, Najee Harris, he's ran the ball pretty well, but I was expecting a little bit better. I was expecting him to be like super, super dominant. And thus far, he's just been good. So I would like to see him pick it up a little bit. But, beggars can't be choosers. And I feel like hopefully the yards are going to come for him. Just so far, he hasn't really ran the ball that well. I mean, I'm not saying he's been bad, but he just hasn't been, I don't think he's met the expectation, or at least the expectation that I had going into the season. So we'll see how it all pans out with that. But with that being said, I really think that Jalen Waddle and Devontae Smith, they've played excellent football thus far, especially in the first game, the Missouri game. Devontae Smith and Waddle, they were both all over the field, and they played really, really well together. So I really hope that we can continue to, play well and do what needs to be done to pull out the victory. So with that being said, I think that it's going to be a close game. It's going to be tough, but I think that we're going to be able to win if we do what we need to do. But the biggest thing is, we can't just take these guys lightly. We need to play them tough, and we need to treat them as a serious opponent. The way that they played Florida, put up 35 points on that defense, as well as, played against Kentucky and beat them in a shootout, tells you that, their offense is going to come to play. So defensively, we really got to step it up. Guys like Jordan Battle, he's had a decent season so far, but he's got to keep it going from the defensive back position. Byron Young, Fedarian Mathis, Christopher Allen, all these different guys, linebackers, defensive linemen, stuff like that. We really, really got to pick it up and continue to be the team that we're capable of. Also, I've really loved the way that Dylan Moses has played thus far this season. Obviously, he was a returning kind of veteran guy, I guess you would say, even though he missed a lot of last season, but they were expecting big things from him this year, and I definitely think that he's filled the role great. Obviously he's had a couple of plays here and there that could have been better for sure, but I think you kind of expect that. That's what it is. No one's perfect, especially not in college. You're learning how to play and get your mistakes out now, and then hopefully you can make it into the pros one day. So we'll see what ends up happening with that. And hopefully the defense can show up because they're going to be tested this week. In some respects, I think Texas A&M was pretty solid, but I think this is going to be the best offense that we faced this season. So it's going to be a really good test to see where we're at, defensively especially. It's going to, because last couple seasons defense has kind of been not as strong as it has been in the past. So I'm really hoping we can pick it up defensively, and this can be a statement victory, and we can hold them to a low amount of points. With that being said, though, I think for the score prediction, I'm going to say Alabama's going to win, and I'm going to go with 38-25. I think that's going to be the ending score. I think we're going to give up some points, but I do think we're going to win this game. But I think Ole Miss is going to not look as strong as they have in past games, because I think their defensive line and their offensive line is just going to be outmatched in this game. So I think that the quarterback's really going to have a hard time. But I do think they're still going to get their points, so that's why I say I think they're going to score somewhere in the 20s, and I think we're going to score like 38 points or something. I think it'll be probably a two-possession game for the majority of the game. But like I said, I think that if we're not careful, we could very easily lose this one. We lost to Ole Miss before when we were just pretty much set to win back when they had number 10. I can't remember the name of the quarterback. But anyways, when they had that guy, we were just picked and set to win, and we walked in there and got beat. So I'm definitely not saying that they have no chance, but I think we're going to come out, do what we need to do to pick up the victory, and just have a good game. And we're really going to need it too, because I believe next week we're going to be going into our game against Georgia at home, but still against Georgia. And that's really going to be a tough test. So we'll see what ends up happening. We're going to do what we can and hopefully pull out the victory. But hey, either way, roll Tide, and let's get this W, boys. It's a road game this week at Ole Miss. So hey, it's not going to be easy, but I think we got the talent, we got the ability, and we got the coaching to get it done. And, moving forward to that Georgia game, hey, it's going to be a really, really, really tough game, but hopefully we can pull that one out as well. And if we can beat Georgia, I give us a pretty good shot to run the rest of the conference undefeated. You know, the Iron Bowl is always tough, of course, and LSU's definitely not going to be a slouch either. Mississippi State is much improved with Mike Leach. You know, they came out straight out the bat and beat LSU, the defending champions, so that was a huge shock. But then they also turned around and lost last week. Mississippi State did to Arkansas or somebody. So, you know, it's going to be a tough schedule moving forward, but let's just focus on one game at a time. At Ole Miss this week, Lane Kiffin is the coach of Ole Miss. I think they're much improved, and I think it's going to be tough, but hopefully we can do it, pull out the victory. So with that being said, guys, if you like this video, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't yet, and turn on all the notifications so you can get an update every time we post something. With that being said, guys, my name is Bryson, and we'll see you guys in the next video.